Hi there, I'm Angela. Let's talk about the books that I have pre-ordered and placed on holds at my library for 2025. These are books that I have been so excited about since I've heard about the release. A lot of these I've had pre-ordered since last year, some of them a very, very, very long time, and I hope that you can get some inspiration from these and maybe get you a little bit excited if you are interested in any of these books or authors. Now, I'm trying to read the books on my shelf as a priority. I have about 140-ish, and those are my top priority to get through. So you know that if I'm going to be reading new books or books that aren't in that, they are ones that are top tier. At least I hope they're going to be top tier. I'm going to start with my Barnes & Noble pre-orders. I'm going to go in order. I'm going to cheat a little and start with a book that is already out, but I really want to shout it out because I am so eager to get to it. This book is The Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. Stephen Graham Jones is an incredible horror author. He includes a lot of his indigenous heritage in his characters and his stories, and I would categorize as a little bit of a slasher element to a lot of his books, or at least he doesn't hold back when it comes to those elements. And The Buffalo Hunter Hunter is actually a historical horror, which I love. Victor LaValle did a historical horror in Lone Women, which I also highly recommend. Historical horror can really emphasize a lot of history's horrors in such a visceral, gut-wrenching way. I'm very eager to see what Stephen Graham Jones does with this book. The Buffalo Hunter Hunter is set in the American West in 1912. It follows a Lutheran priest who transcribes the life of a vampire who haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Reservation looking for justice. A diary written in 1912 by a Lutheran pastor is discovered within a wall. What it unveils is a slow massacre, a chain of events that go back to 217 Blackfeet dead in the snow. Told in transcribed interviews by a Blackfeet named Good Stab, who shares the narrative of his peculiar life over a series of confessional visits. This is an American Indian revenge story written by one of the new masters of horror, Stephen Graham Jones. It is out. Go grab it. Go support Stephen Graham Jones. This sounds fantastic. My next pre-order is a cookbook. This cookbook is coming out on April 8th. It is by Kylie Sakida. She is on social media as Nutrition by Kylie, if you've ever seen or heard of her. The cookbook is called So Easy, So Good, Delicious Recipes and Expert Tips for Balanced Eating. I really wanted to shout this out because it is something that many of us struggle with, and I feel like this particular nutritionist really understands a lot of the struggles and needs of a lot of people, often because she struggles with them herself. Whether it be a disability or ADHD or just being very busy, a lot of her recipes focus on being nutritionally balanced without being restrictive. She's always saying in her videos, what can I add? So for example, she'll make a bowl of ramen and she does not demonize anything, as you shouldn't with food. She doesn't demonize it. She says, okay, let's have this delicious ramen. What can we add? Let's add some bok choy. Let's add some tofu to make it more nutritionally dense and filling for you. That is what I love. I find nutrition really overwhelming, especially with a lot of this wellness culture that's coming in, and I put wellness in quotes because a lot of it is not actual wellness. And she says in this cookbook, she teaches you easy way to understand how to make a nutritionally balanced plate, nutrition in general, and a lot of the recipes she talks about have minimal prep. You can use freezer things, you can use canned things, and she encourages that. I cannot wait to dive into this and get some really good tips and some good recipes and just help get a better concept of how to add rather than restrict or subtract from our plates. I'm sure you've probably heard of this already if you're on BookTube, but Victoria Schwab has a new book, V.E. Schwab, called Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I am so excited to get a new Victoria Schwab book. I loved Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This book is equally magical realism, it sounds like, because it says that there are 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangling like roots. One is in 1532 in Santo Domingo de la Calzada. 1837 in London, and 2019 in Boston. One grows high, one grows deep, and one grows wild, and all of them grow teeth. I can't wait. A very long-awaited book that I have definitely had as my longest pre-order because it has been pushed back so many times is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. This book has, it seems like, an official release date of July 15th. So this summer we will have a new one. This is the author that had previously written The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. That has been a wonderful, cozy fan favorite. And this one sounds also wonderful, whimsical, and heartwarming, about a witch who has a second chance to get her magical powers and her life back on track. Sarah Swan used to be one of the most powerful witches in Britain. Then she resurrected her great aunt Jasmine from the very recently dead, lost most of her magic, befriended a semi-villainous talking fox, and was exiled from her guild. Yes, I love foxes. I didn't even know there was going to be a fox in this. That makes me even more eager. Now, she slightly reluctantly and just a bit grumpily helps her aunt run an enchanted inn in Lancashire where she deals with her quirky guest shenanigans, tries to keep said talking fox in check, and longs for the future that seems lost to her. But then she finds out about an old spell that could hold the key to restoring her power. Enter Luke Larson, handsome and icy magical historian who arrives on a dark winter evening and might just know how to unlock the spell's secrets. Okay, so innkeeping, talking fox, maybe Grump Sunshine. It seems like he has some walls up, so we'll see. But she might not be Sunshine. We'll find out. The last book, unfortunately, in the Tomes and Tea series by Rebecca Thorne is coming out. It is called Alchemy and a Cup of Tea. The first book is called Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. It is such a wonderful cozy fantasy series and sapphic romance series. The characters, as the main characters and the back cast of characters, everyone is so fun and funny and interesting. I'll give you a synopsis of the first book because this is the end of the series, but that's fantastic if you haven't picked it up yet because you can binge the whole series. The first book is about Raina and Kianth. Raina works as a queen's private guard, and Kianth is a really, really powerful mage. I think the most powerful one. And they kind of make eyes at each other, fall for each other. But the queen is a horrible tyrant, and Raina can't just leave, even though all they want is just to settle down and open a bookshop that serves tea and has plants. So the first book is them going through that journey, and then the next few are different levels of journeys that the wonderful couple Kianth and Raina go on. It's great. It's so sweet and funny. There are a lot of puns, terrible puns. I love terrible puns. So if you also love terrible puns, you love silliness, female-female romance, it's everything. Books and cozy. And tea. So much tea. Man, this is just top tier. I absolutely love this series. I recommend you checking it out, especially because it's finished and even the audiobook is really enjoyable, so you can just listen to it while you do things. The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas is coming out. So Isabel Cañas I found from the book The Hacienda. That was such a wonderfully atmospheric and eerie and dramatic at the same time book. It kept me so captivated the whole time. I never felt bored. And I love that her books are set in historical Mexico. This one as well is going to be set in 1765 when a demonic presence awakens deep in a Mexican silver mine. The young woman it seizes must turn to the one man she shouldn't trust. When a plague sweeps through, Alba flees with her wealthy merchant parents and fiancé to the family's isolated mine for refuge. Safety is fleeting though, as other dangers soon bare their teeth. Alba begins suffering from strange hallucinations, sleepwalking, and violent convulsions. She senses something cold lurking beneath her skin, something angry, something wrong. Elias, haunted by a troubled past, came to the New World to make his fortune and escape his family's legacy of greed. Alba as his cousin's betrothed is none of his business, which is of course why he can't help but notice her every time she enters a room or the growing tension between them, and why he notices her deteriorate when the demon's thirst for blood grows stronger. Man, she has such a wonderful way of weaving romance with the Mexican historical setting with gothic elements and horror elements. The first one is more of a haunted house atmosphere and vibe. The second one is vampires, and now this third book is demonic possession. I hope she continues and keeps going. I'm so happy to support her, and I encourage you to check out her books as well. Now the books that I have placed on hold from my library. Oh my goodness. The next installment in the Nevermore series, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. Silverborn by Jessica Townsend. April 25th. We are just over a month away after 5 years of waiting. Ha 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 ha. That is incorrect. See how happy I was? No, we've got another few months to wait. The date got pushed back to June 24th. So, the new date is June 24th. We waited this long. Just gonna have to wait a little longer. Back to the video. The last book came out in 2020. It's been a wait. It's understandable. The author had a lot that she was going through, but it's here. It's finally here. So, Silverborn is the fourth in the series. I say every time I highly, highly recommend the audiobooks by Gemma Whelan, and that is the reason why I'm not purchasing the book yet. I wait until they come out on paperback and I get them there, but immediately I listen to the audiobooks because the voices that the actress does, she is genuinely an actress. She was on the Game of Thrones, and the whole atmosphere of it makes it so much more whimsical and cozy. It is a middle grade series. The first book, Nevermore, is about a cursed child named Morrigan Crow who manages to escape her pretty dark fate. Cursed children are doomed to die at midnight on their 11th birthday. Thankfully, before that happens, she is whisked away by a man named Jupiter North, a very colorful, hilarious character, and she is taken to Nevermore to compete in these trials against other extraordinary talented children to be able to get into the Wondrous Society, which is a prestigious organization there. The problem is, Morrigan does not have any extraordinary talents. She is very confused as to why Jupiter has her here and how she is even supposed to be competing against all of these powers that other kids have or talents that other kids have. So it is a fabulously interesting time. It is a fun time. There are so many characters that you get to meet of all different types because this is a very magical place. So there's animals, there's people, there's Wunimals, which is kind of a combination. There's angels, there's so many things. And it is my #1 middle grade book series recommendation. On September 9th, Rachel Harrison has a new book coming out called Play Nice. It says, a woman must confront the demons of her past when she attempts to fix up her childhood home in this devilishly clever take on the haunted house novel. I love haunted house anything. Haunted house, haunted hotel, haunted building, haunted anything. That is my jam. So this immediately stood out to me, especially because I loved So Thirsty, her vampire novel that came out. I'm not going to buy this book just yet because I haven't read any of her others. So I'm not sure if she's an autobi author or if just because I love vampires, So Thirsty worked so well for me. But this one, Haunted House, I'm sure a lot of people really enjoy haunted house stories too. And in this one, it says Cleo Louise Barnes leads a picture-perfect life as a stylist and influencer, but beneath the glossy veneer, she harbors a not-so-glamorous secret. She grew up in a haunted house. Well, not haunted, possessed. After Cleo's parents' messy divorce, her mother, Alex, moved Cleo and her sisters into a house occupied by a demon, or so Alex claimed. That's not what Cleo's sisters remember or what the courts determined when they stripped Alex of custody after she went off the deep end. But Alex was insistent. She even wrote a book about her experience in the house. After Alex's sudden death, the supposedly possessed house passes to Cleo and her sisters. Where her sisters see childhood trauma, Cleo sees an opportunity for house flipping content. That is hilarious. Everything is content these days. Why not? Only as the home makeover process begins, Cleo discovers there might be some truth to her mother's claims. As memories resurface and Cleo finally reads her mother's book, the presence in the house becomes more real and more sinister, revealing ugly truths that threaten to shake Cleo's beautiful life to its very foundation. Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. The next book that I am going to have from the library, because of the same issue, I have the first book on paperback, so I want to wait to buy the second one on paperback. September 23rd, We Love You, Bunny by Mona Awad. Wow. This was a shock. I thought that Bunny was supposed to be a standalone, and it probably was supposed to be. It is a very niche book, but on BookTube, it's really got a presence and a place here, and I'm glad. It is such a wild time. I'm trying to think of how to describe Bunny, and I'm coming up short, so I'm going to read the description because I really want to encourage people to give it a try. It is very weird. The end. I don't know how else to describe it. Weird. But I say that in a good way. It is really a fascinating time. In the first book, you are following Samantha, who feels like an outsider at an MFA program in New England. She feels like an outsider because she is a scholarship student. She does not come from money. She thankfully has a really great imagination and is there on that talent, but she's going through a bit of a rough spell. There is a clique of unbearable girls who each call each other Bunny. She gets an invitation to the Bunny's smut salon, as they call it, where they go to their house and they read their own like poems and works, and basically she gets just wrapped up in the bunnies and sunk into their bizarre bubblegum world, and there are rituals that start to happen that may or may not involve bunnies. And she begins to take part in the ritualistic off-campus workshop where they conjure their monstrous creations, the edges of reality beginning to blur. It is very dramatic, very weird and wild, very uncomfortable a lot of the times. But man, oh man, I've read it twice, and both times I just found more and more things that I have highlighted, written about, underlined. And there's going to be a sequel, and it includes the bunnies, which, if you know how the first book ends, I am very curious to hear their perspective about the chaos that ensued in this book. Then finally, the book that I cannot wait to get from the library is the sixth book in the Singing Hills cycle by Nevo. This one is called A Mouthful of Dust. These are all novellas, and they all stand alone, but it does help if you read the first one, which is An Empress of Salt and Fortune. That's also one of my favorites, so highly recommend Empress of Salt and Fortune because it sets the groundwork about Cleric Chi. Cleric Chi, they go to all these places throughout these lands and they document stories. It has a very ancient world feeling, and their companion is called Almost Brilliant. They are a bird who helps with this process. In this book, A Mouthful of Dust, it says that they come to the river town of Bowlin, chasing stories of a legendary famine. Amid tales of dishes served to royalty and desserts made of dust, they discover the secrets of what happens when hunger stalks the land and what the powerful will do to hide their crimes. Ooh, that's a bit on the nose for reality. Trapped in the mansion of a sinister magistrate, Chi and Almost Brilliant must learn what happened in Bowlin when the famine came to call, and they must do so quickly because the things in the shadows are only growing hungrier. Oof. I really recommend the atmosphere of these stories. The writing, Nevo has this incredible talent of writing in so many different voices, it feels like. Her Singing Hills cycle is such a different feeling from, for example, The Chosen and the Beautiful, and that talent is wonderful to witness and enjoy. As I said, they are novellas, and the audiobooks are wonderful as well, so another big recommendation from me to check out those books. So those are the books that I have either pre-ordered and have been eagerly awaiting, or I'm going to be getting from the library as soon as they come out. I would love to hear what books you are most excited about. Maybe they align with this. Maybe they're things that I need to hear about. So please let me know what books you're most eager about. And if any of these have captured your interest, that would make me so happy because these authors just are so good at what they do. And once these books come out, I will update you on my thoughts on them. I am so excited.